This is a 1989 Jeep Grand Wagoneer, and one of the seals on the end of the axle is leaking. Basically, you can see the mess that it leaves on the floor, and it's gear oil that's leaking out. So today I'm going to replace both wheel seals on the outside of the axle, also the pinion seal, and wherever else it's leaking, we're going to take care of it. It's leaking from kind of all over the place in the rear end. So let's get it up on the lift and get started. All right, you can see under that'd be the driver rear wheel. We have a pretty active leak here, and it's dripping down, getting all over the wheel and getting slung all around. You can see it up on the fender well there. And then obviously the rear end is leaking to a certain extent here. Well, sure looks like it's probably the pinion seal, so we're going to check that out too, right here. And then this other side is probably hanging on, maybe a little weeper there, just a little bit, but it's kind of one of those deals. While you're in here, we're just going to get it taken care of. So anyway, let's get at it. Okay, so the lug setup and lug nuts and everything that was on this wheel was all kind of jacked up by previous owner. It has spacers on it too, which we've never pulled off. So we're going to try and get these off without, damaging anything, or who knows what we're going to find. So spacers got to come off. The actual drum brake, all that apparatus has to come off as well. Okay, with this drum pulled off, we're going to go back up and we're just going to take the drive shaft out so that we can freely move the rear end and rotate the axles and everything, so we can get everything undone. Alright, so we got the drive shaft removed, and now the next thing you want to do is take your axle, now that you can move it so that this hole lines up with, there's a set of nuts on the inside there. So you're going to undo here and then roll over here, undo, and here, and so on and so forth, to remove all the nuts that are behind there that hold that little flange. There's a little flange behind here against the axle housing. Okay, so all the nuts are taken apart on the inside of here, so possibly this might just pull out. We'll see. Alright, so you see it pulled out quite easily. There is no big major issues here that I can feel. It's pretty smooth and everything's fine, but we got a new bearing set for it anyway. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is take a slide hammer with like kind of a hook attachment and get in behind there and pull the outer race out of the axle housing. Alright, so we got the axle in the vise here, and basically you need to get this retainer off of here, because the bearing and the seal are obviously, can't go this way, so they got to go this way. So we tried to put this in our press, but basically the stroke of the press, it's too big. It's like almost 3 foot long probably. So this guy's got to come off here. We're either going to cut it or try and tap it off here, but somehow we got to get this guy pushed back towards the center of the diff. Alright, so we're looking at this axle. We got everything undone, everything's cleaned up here. But this mark, this mark, this mark, these are all marks that can't be on here, and like none of these are for us, they're like previous stuff. So well, this one here is kind of the bugger because that's right where the seal rides. So you just can't really work with that. So we're gonna put a sleeve on here to like get us a new nice surface right there. So we'll get that tomorrow. We're waiting on parts on the axle seals, and so now we're moving on to the pinion seal here. Obviously you can see it's leaking pretty bad. So we're going to just take this nut off and the yoke will come off, and then hopefully I think we can get it to seal that. Alright, so here's the yoke, and you can see there's a nice little groove right there. So we're probably going to end up sleeving just about every sealing surface on this rear end, because it's just, we really don't want to come back in there again to fix this. It's like, yeah, you can catch your fingernail on that sucker pretty good. So anyway, we'll get it cleaned up and get the old seal out. Sorry, I wasn't holding. It's been a couple days, went and got some parts, got some Speedy sleeves for both ends of the axle and the pinion seal. So let's show you what we got. All right, so here all is what we have. Obviously 2 things of gear oil to refill it. Then this right here is the actual pinion seal. And these 2 are the end seals for the axle, with also 2 new bearings and retainers. So these are each one of the sides of the axles. And then these 2 are the Speedy sleeves for each axle. And then this guy is the Speedy sleeve for the pinion. So all these pieces are going to get installed and have this rear end good as new. Okay, so this is the right part number for the rear pinion seal. Alright, so here's our yoke, and we have our Speedy sleeve. So it comes with this little installation tool, which sometimes you can use. In this case I think we will, and then the actual sleeve. And so then you just go to like a Napa or someplace, and then they measure it out. It has to be within, I think, a 6/1000 window. So you just measure what the diameter is, and then they just pick from a catalog which one fits. So yours may or may not be the same. So we're just going to take and put just a little bit of Loctite on here. Smear that around, and then you take with the little lip facing down, Alright, so to know where this sleeve should end up, we just installed it on the Jeep really quick, and now we pulled it off. You know, you could mark or something, do something a little better than that, but we're just kind of testing and checking, so it needs to go down a little further. Okay, so we're pretty confident with where that's sitting vertically on this shaft, you know, kind of playing it towards the bottom. That's where the seal is probably going to end up. We'll make sure we check that. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to rip this little installation flange off of here. So we're going to kind of nick it with the pliers and then kind of roll it off of there. So as you can see, this sleeve is covering up all the little grooves that were there from the old seal. So now we'll just go ahead and install it like it's a normal yoke. Okay, so I put a little grease to help the seal out here. We're going to go ahead and install it. Okay, so then on this axle, you just tighten it till it bottoms out, till it's actually tight, because there's no crush sleeve or anything in behind it that you have to worry about. We set our pieces out here. We have everything in the order of which it goes on, so you can't be putting the bearing on before you put the seal on, and you can't put this on after you put the bearing on, and stuff like that. So you just got to get this in the right order for installation. We've gotten everything degreased here, and so I'm going to put again just a nothing of Loctite on here. And as you can see, basically we're going to drive this down until the back of it, this top lip, is even with right here. That's basically how far we're going to drive it down, if it goes that far. Okay, obviously with the axle at its length, it's kind of, you can't use the installation tool that comes with it. So we have a 2-inch Schedule 80 piece of PVC that fits like perfectly with this sleeve. So now we'll slip that over the top of this axle, and we'll just kind of use kind of like a post driver type technique. We'll just kind of pound it down on there, and it should go nicely. All right, so there it is installed, and then we pulled the little flange off as well. Now the seal slips down, and that'll be installed onto the Speedy sleeve area there. We'll use a little grease to help it slide on there. Okay, so the bearing is just sitting on there. Things you'll notice are like this rounded edge. This edge right here is rounded, and also this is a tapered bearing, so it only goes one way. So like when you take it apart, pay attention to how it's going on there. But this is the correct way to have it go on there. Okay, so we got the bearing on there, and similar type of setup. We're going to get it started with this PVC. Our press was not quite long enough to work with actually even the shortest of the pair of shafts here. So we ended up taking the bottom, the wheels and all the rest of it off of it, and then we'll just put it up on little stilts like this, and we'll get through it, but they are kind of surprisingly long. So basically we have the bearing started and the retainer started, and we're just gonna press the rest of the way here. Okay, so after we got the press reconfigured and everything, we got this bearing pushed up right up until that shoulder. That's where you want it, and then of course it was being pushed by this actual retainer, so everything's net there. And then you can see how this seal will slide back and be riding right on our Speedy sleeve. So we're gonna go ahead and install this axle and make sure everything's straight. Alright, so here's our pan. It's one of those aluminum ones, just what it came with, aftermarket deal. So anyway, we're going to slap it up there, got some black RTV on there, and we'll get the bolts tightened down. Alright, so it's been probably a week or more now, and it's been filled, and we don't have any leaking. Everything's well sealed, no issues that way. So we are going to put the drum back on, and it actually has little spacers. We're gonna do that. That's the way we found it here, and get everything put back together. Thanks for watching.